Okay, in this video tutorial, I'm going to quickly demonstrate how to use a vector layer mask in tandem with a pixel layer mask to have the vector mask control how the pixel layer mask is handled inside the image. So this is obviously a prefab document that I use during my lectures, and we use our transform functions with ruler guides to transform in perspective. But these people, I want the freedom creatively to be able to choose where I want them going in and out of the tunnel. But to do so, I don't want to have to redraw my pixel layer mask every single time. So that's where vector masks come in to pick up some of the heavy lifting on that. So what I'm going to do is create a vector mask around the edge of the tunnel and then unlink that vector mask from my pixel mask so it gives me freedom to transform this masked image in and out of the tunnel without having to redraw the pixel layer mask. So to do that, I'm going to set up my path-based tool for creating a vector mask, grab my pen tool, make sure it's set to path, make sure it's set to combine in the path shape mode. Then I'm going to evaluate my arc, or you evaluate whatever entryway it is or whatever digital content it is where you want the mask to be controlled within. And I'm going to click and drag Bezier handle to a third of the arc this way. Release my mouse, then come over here, click and drag in the opposite direction. That makes a nice smooth Bezier handle, both 1/3 this direction, 1/3 that direction. Then I can come relatively down to the bottom of my arc here, and then if I click and just drag slightly, it matches the edge of the arc, and I can get in there so that it rides this edge really nicely. But as it gets down here, I won't have to worry about it too much because the canoe is traveling in perspective in this direction, so it may not reach that edge. But since it's vector, as you know, I can modify and adjust as needed. And then I'm going to come outside my canvas and then just single click all the way around, because I know that that canoe is not going to travel anywhere else in the document except along the train tracks and into the tunnel, if I'm using perspective correctly. Now once I get my path created, I can come to my path panel and I can save it just so that I have it. So I'm going to save it and call it tunnel control, because it's controlling them going in and out of the tunnel, and then press OK. And then once I get that path saved, now I can go back to my layer and I can add the vector mask to this layer. So I'm going to select the pixel layer, and then since I already have a pixel mask on that layer, they work successively. So the pixel mask is the most dominant because it's a pixel-based software, and then vector masks are always subordinate to your pixel-based masks. So in this case, I don't have to use the command click because the only other option of mask I can add is a vector mask. So I hover over the new mask button and see it says add vector mask instead of layer mask, and then I click on it and it adds that linked vector mask to my pixel layer. So now I have a vector mask, a pixel mask, and a pixel layer encased in a smart object. So in order to maintain the tunnel control area, I'm going to unlink my vector mask to my pixel mask. So now these two parts are free to move independently of the vector mask, and you can see the white area of the vector mask and the path edge around it means that it will only be seen here. So if I bring this canoe out of any other area of where the vector mask is, it will disappear along the hard edge. So I'm going to select the pixel layer. Actually, I grab my selection tool, I click off of the layer vector mask just to make sure, then I click in my panel to deselect everything, and then just grab my pixel mask, because when you have vector masks applied, you can select them in a group with the pixel layer. So you want to make sure everything's deselected. The path's deselected, the vector mask is deselected, then grab your pixel layer. It's linked to the bitmap mask. So now I can do my transform. But the first thing I have to do is turn on my guides. So there's my horizon line and vanishing point for the perspective of this image. And I do Command T, free transform. I grab my target icon, I reset it so that it's at the crosshairs of the horizon line and vanishing point. Then I hold down my shift key and my option key, and then when I scale this graphic down, you can see as it approaches the edge of the tunnel, the vector mask cuts it off. But notice I can do that freely. I don't have to redraw the pixel mask, and then I can just scale and transform penalty free because I have the smart object. And then when I'm satisfied with the location of where I put these individuals, I can commit to that transform. Now, if I decided to change that because the boy is cut off, I just do Command T. I reset my target icon to the vanishing point and horizon line in the perspective or point of view of this image, and then hold down Shift key, hold down Option key, and then I can scale them back to show the boy and have the front cut off a little bit. So basically, penalty-free transformation in all the ways. And then you can notice a little bit lower here, my vector mask wasn't quite on the bricks. I can go in, select my mask, grab my path selection tool, select that path, and then modify it with the pen tool and direct select tool so that it fits the edge of whatever entryway or whatever object you're trying to avoid in a design, and readjust it non-destructively. So that is using a vector mask in tandem with a pixel mask on a pixel layer to control that pixel mask transformation and hide it or adjust it so that it can be hidden behind shapes or objects or whatever you draw with the vector mask.